Hello, Bethel. My name is Mathias, and this is my story. I moved to Ottawa, Canada, when I was 11 years old. I moved from Ethiopia. So it's been now roughly 18 years, I would say. Ottawa's been my home now. I started attending Bethel, I think roughly now it's 7 years, I would say. And I am now the youth pastor here at Bethel. I am the second child of three brothers. I know my mom it's been tough, but it's a season for her that she's reaping now that we're big enough, that we're trying to take care of her. While we were in Ethiopia, we grew up in an Orthodox family. For us, it meant being an Orthodox was being Ethiopian. But by the time that I was 5 years old, my dad ended up moving to actually Kenya, from Kenya to Canada. But while he was in Kenya, I came to knowledge that he gave his life to Christ in Kenya. And he actually sent us a picture of him getting baptized. My mom hid that picture from us. My older brother ended up accepting Christ. My mother followed. I refused when they wanted to go to church. I was the one that would say, hey, that's your thing, you guys can go, but I'm not interested. But when my mom gave her life to Christ, my father had invited the pastor to come over, and he had the chance to share the gospel with my mom, and my mom accepted Christ. And by that, I was triggered. I remember honestly going into my room and crying and yelling out to God. And I said, hey, it was my brother, my dad, now my mom is gone, and it just seems like I'm the only one clearly holding on for you, fighting for you, and it seems like you don't care. I remember that night going to bed, and roughly I would say 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I was awoken. I remember looking at the time and going, why am I up at this time? And I felt like I had a good rest. While I was thinking about that in my head, the only way that until this day that I can explain it, it just felt like someone just walked into my room. What perfect love was, what I have seen being demonstrated to me by my mother and my father. I've seen the way that they've loved each other. I've seen the way that they've loved us. My definition of perfect love was their type of love. First time ever, that love was challenged, or that idea of love that I thought was perfect was challenged by the love that I sensed 12 years old in my room. On Sunday, my dad, as usual, hey, do you want to go to church? And gave me that invitation, and this time I was willing. I actually went to school back in Ethiopia, and it was a Christian school, and there was this one song that they used to sing in Amharic, and I remember being young and really loved that song. Once we got to the church and we opened the door to just walk into the church, we were late. But I remember hearing the first song, that song that I fell in love with, and they were just singing it. And in a second, before being seated, I sensed that same love that I sensed in my room at 3 o'clock in the morning. By the time that I was 15, I felt as if that there was something more, and I wanted whatever that more was. I remember being invited to a conference that was happening in Toronto. The worship was amazing, just God's presence was there, and the preacher came and he was sharing a word with all of us. And in that process, he just kind of paused and said, there's some people in this area, and the Spirit of God is moving. And I went, oh, awesome, where? And I was looking around to see what's happening. And to be honest, there were some people sitting on my roll, and they were in wheelchair and getting up. And I was like, what is happening right now? This is crazy. As I was observing, and something within me erupted. And I realized that in that moment, the baptism of the Holy Spirit was taking place. And I was having a fight with my mind, and Mathias was like, what is this thing? Something wants to come out. I'm like, you have to be willing. So I just bent down, make sure no one can hear me, and I uttered couple words that I have no clue what I was saying. And my mind kicked in right away and said, "Are you going crazy?" I remember the pastor going, don't try to understand the spiritual things just with your mind, but understand it with the heart. And I knew in that moment my heart was testifying, "Mathios, be willing." And I allowed myself, and I said, "Here I am, God." I ended up actually moving from Ottawa to Kingston for college. And once I was there, you would assume once having an experience such as whether it be this and the baptism of the Holy Spirit, that it is impossible for a Christian to backslide. I'm here to prove you wrong, because I did. I realized that my joy was leaving. I was no longer the peace that was in me. All this thing that I was experiencing, it was a depression that was taking place, which I've never experienced before. And I'm just questioning what's happening. I ended up having a dream, and in my dream, I saw all these things that I thought that I wanted be before me, and I was chasing after them. But every time that I chased after them, the distance did not change. And I started getting tired in my dream. And then all I can think of this man that just appeared out of nowhere on the right side. And all he did was extend his hand, and it was just welcoming, as if nothing mattered or nothing that I did was held against me. And with the little strength that I had, I knew that it was an invitation. And I tried walking toward him. And then, to be honest, on my way in my dream, on my way to him, I stumbled. And as I did that, he extended his hand and pulled me up and turned my face toward his face and gave my back to the things that I was chasing. And in those moments, all I sensed was that love when I was a child that I encountered again. If there is something that I can leave with you, I will definitely say, in moments where I needed somebody to believe for me, my mom was consistent. My mom was consistent in praying for me. I recognized that she would even get up at 3 and just out of nowhere and would pray and would just trust God. And the same way how Moses' mother had to release Moses, but release him with believing that he is in God's hand. I would just say, prayer works. And if there is someone that you have been praying for, I just want to encourage you, please do not stop. The God that you worship, he is able and he's mighty to do the impossible. Let my story be a testimony to you and an encouragement to you. My name is Mathias, and this is my story.